I was in this distorted reality where everything was hyper clear, hyper vivid. There was this eerie quietness that accompanied it. Now, I could say that was dream-like, but it was not a dream.
Well, I will say this. I don't know, and I really doubt if I was abducted. But in the mid '70s, me and my wife, I went and worked in North Carolina for a while. Didn't work out. Had to drive straight home nonstop. Got into New Mexico, and we had an encounter. And I mean, it was in the desert, and the whole area lit up brighter than daylight. That's how intense it was. I thought maybe, like I told the listeners before, I thought it was maybe a helicopter. Because they had no speed limit, and I was going really fast. But I figured, well, maybe I'm going to get busted. I get out of the car, and it was extreme hurting light, not a bit of noise, total desert nighttime noise. And as fast as that light was there, it was gone, just disappeared. So I really, like in your case, like, you were in your bed, you saw them coming. I mean, you don't know what happened. In the same way, honestly, I don't know what happened because, we could have lost time. I never bothered to check. I just thought it was very unusual, and it scared me and my wife at the time.
And what do you do now? You host a UFO paranormal radio show.
Well, I that's one of the things that got me into it. I went into the broadcasting in the mid '70s, and one of the first gigs I got in radio was not being a DJ; it was actually doing a talk show, and I was doing a talk show of paranormal wasn't like it is today, but we were talking about witchcraft, things such as occults and things like that, and it just went on from there for quite a few years doing talk shows.
Very interesting. I mean, that's the question I ask is what was going on in your life leading up to your event? And when I say event, it can be an owl, a synchronicity, or a UFO. And most, I mean, I cannot tell you how my partner Andrea, that's just like, I can't keep up with it. Like sitting at the breakfast table, you check your email, and it's just like, oh, got another story. Basically, I'm getting one good owl story a day. That's been going on for nearly 10 years. You do the math.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot. And I cannot keep up with it. I do my best. And there's some of them are a little bit, like, oh, I saw a nice owl on the fence, and I got it was real pretty, and it was a fun thing to see. Like I don't put too much weight in those, but I've got some doozies in my files.
Well, how many in your files actually somebody recently saw a UFO or thought they saw a UFO, and then all of a sudden a day or two later or the same day they thought they saw a UFO or something strange?
That's most of them are like that.
Yeah, that's why I was making that point.
UFO and yeah, that's how. Yeah, so here's another. So this is a. Here, we got the time, and there's two stories back to back. I haven't told these in a while.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I was doing the research, when I was immersed in the research initially for the book project, I was getting these stories. One would arrive on a Monday, and the next one would arrive on a Tuesday, and they would come together back to back. So there was this woman, and she's an outspoken UFO experiencer. Her name is Susan Kornacki. There's nothing wrong with using her name. She's out there. She's talking about her experiences. She contacted me. She's a smart, headstrong woman.
Hey, Mike, can you hold on for a minute? I think we got a caller here, and I want to take it, and they can ask you a question here on this. So hold on.
Sure.
Hi, this is Night Dreams Talk Radio. Who do we have? Hello.
Hello, Gary. It's Michael calling in.
Yeah, hey, Michael. Also, Mike, are you still there?
I'm right here.
Okay, Michael would like to talk to you.
Great.
Oh, man, thank you for taking my call, Gary.
Yeah, no problem.
This is just a very incredible show tonight. I just love the idea that Mike has put together with these symbolisms, of owls And I was just going to ask, I remember the Harry Potter movies were big into that one fantastic-looking owl. Do you ever get some interesting emails on the imagery there in Harry Potter's?
Well, I don't get any emails about Harry Potter, but what I can say is that, so the ancient lore of the owl, right? The ancient lore is that the owls can see into the darkness. That's the mythology. That's all over the world. Everyone recognizes that ancient man in their cave knew that owls could see in the dark. And that must have seemed magical. So mythologies were built up around that ability. And the owl would fly. The darkness became a metaphor for the land of the dead, the land of the ancestors, the land of the gods, that other realm. And with the owl, the part 2 of the mythology, which is present day, I'm convinced, is that the owls then return with a message. That's the title of the book, The Messengers. And now in Harry Potter's case, at Hogwarts School, everyone had a little pet owl, and the owl delivered the mail. It's perfect, right? So we have this ancient mythology. It plays out perfectly present day. The owl delivers the mail. It couldn't be plainer. It is a messenger. I will also point out that J.K. Rowling, you write it down, the middle 3 letters of her name is O-W-L. She has owl right in her name. Now, that's a more of an insight into how my mind works rather than like any mystical connection there. But I have to wonder whether that happened by accident or whether she put that there on purpose because she had a working knowledge of ancient mythologies and such.
Fascinating. Oh my goodness. I am involved in, UFO research. I don't know how many times I've heard that story from people who potentially have been abducted that, I saw this strange owl, and then all of a sudden they lose their time reference for some reason. It just seems to kind of hit right in with the gray eyes in a potential abduction scenario, and the owl being like a screen memory of some kind.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, it's very common. I mean, you ask a UFO abduction researcher or any UFO researcher, you ask, hey, do you have any stories about owls? And they kind of roll their eyes, and they go, of course, I got them. They're all over the place. They show up all the time. Everyone talks about owls. And it's not just owls, it's deer and raccoon. But I think, so owls and deer are the top 2. And then the lower on the list, a little harder to quantify, is squirrels and raccoons and fox and animals that you could potentially see at night. It also includes, I've heard people tell stories of like firemen on the side of the road, that's, with the big goggles on and such, the big sort of, helmet visor thing. So we're talking about something with, so here's what UFO abduction researchers, I'll just say it. Bud Hopkins told me this straight to my face, as did David Jacobs. He said, these people it's the big penetrating eyes of the gray alien, right? So you see a gray alien, there's 2 ways to look at it. Is it our own psyche that says, I cannot handle this image. I am going to create a false memory right on the spot. I'm going to do it internally. And I look at this alien and I say, oh, I see an owl. The other way to look at it is, which I feel is the second way feels a little more true to me, is that the aliens themselves are putting a psychic projection out. They are putting a thought wave out that tells the observer to instead of seeing me, the gray alien, they will then say they will see an owl. Yes, owls have big black eyes. They are not unusual to see at night. There are gray owls. There are gray aliens. It's a pretty clean fit, but I don't have a true answer whether that's exactly correct.
Well, that's a fascinating analysis because obviously the owl is one of the ultimate archetypes of humanity, And maybe these aliens, if they exist, and if they do abduct people, are knowing that from their own thoughts or the fact that they have studied human beings. They know that owls are very recognizable, maybe not threatening, but kind of startling, and they use that maybe as something to hide behind.
Well, you even said it. You said they were archetype. Now, this is where I'm going with my research, is that it's a several steps deeper than just a bird with big owls that you would see at night. Excuse me, a bird with big eyes that you would see at night. If it is an archetype, right? An archetype has a deeper meaning, right? An archetype has a deeper philosophical, metaphysical meaning, symbolic meaning, than just a bird with big eyes. Now, that deeper meaning is just what I said. It's the animal that can traverse the realms. It's the animal that can traverse and leave our realm and go to another realm, right? So other animals have lots of archetypal meaning. Deer have an archetypal meaning. They are the symbol of the forest, right? This is throughout a lot of, the world's mythologies. So, and hummingbirds have their own mythology. They're a symbol of, this is not all across the board, I'm just generalizing here, but they're a symbol of playfulness and lightness and sunshine. Eagles are a symbol of masculinity and power. So this is that they choose the owl. They choose it for an archetypal reason. My sense is that they were doing it for the deepest of reasons, and that they are touching us on some archetypal level.
Yes, and the fact that you mentioned the archetype of messenger, as well as owls stand for knowledge, potentially, and maybe that's the idea that they are trying to instill into humanity, if they're involved in abductions, is that we are bringing knowledge. We are here with a message of some kind. I really like that analogy that you have there with messenger.
It may not be correct. Yeah, it may not be correct, but it's a nice analogy. Now, I argue that which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. Which came first, the owl as the totem, or the powerful event of contact. Right? My sense is that these contact events have been playing out all throughout human history. Right? So someone stepped out of their cave with a bright light and was abducted. They saw an owl.
Well, hey, Michael.
It's been happening all throughout history, and that's where the mythologies arose from.
Michael, you know what I'm thinking? Where he saw aliens out of his bedroom window. Like 4 or 5 of them, walking towards his bedroom window, and he got a message in his mind. Put your head on the pillow and go to sleep. And, it tells me that he was probably abducted. I mean, they wouldn't have been walking towards his house for just walking there to look in the window. I mean, I don't think they're peeping Toms.
Yes.
I really think that he was probably abducted, and maybe something, with a lot of these people who see owls, or the same people who claim that when they see UFOs, they see Bigfoot, or they see raccoons, or they see deer, or, or something. I really... maybe that was, when they were abducted for some reason, that was in their mind. So, they look at, this guy was thinking of owls. We'll use that as a point to make communication, to, basically to, keep an eye on him, and see how he responds.
Yes, that's very possible. You're right, because if they can... you've all heard of the mind scan capability. They just kind of stare in your eyes. Maybe they can do it at a distance as well to kind of determine what people are thinking at the time that they encounter them. But I have another idea that just popped into my head about Mike being potentially a part of the archetype that he is presenting in this owls and other synchronicity kind of things. What if they